Okay, I'll just put everybody into silence. Okay, yeah, that's it. Okay, so yeah, what we're gonna do with this session, yeah, it's partly coming on the back that we of doing 3 days of lower body and lower back and hips. So yeah, it occurred to me it'd be interesting to move up into the upper body, but also to do a bit of a quieter class. So one thing that we do on the teacher training, and I'm sort of aware that mainly the people that come here are either people we've trained or people we're about to train. So we do this sequence of breath work, which I want to dedicate the last like 15 minutes, 20 minutes to that. Okay. So, but we're going to start with some movement. The whole thing is moving. Let me just switch the camera and you can move on to your. So you do need quite a bit of equipment. If you've got it, oh, that's it. Great, that's it. Okay, gallery view, great. So do you have a bolster? And as I always say, if there's any problem with the sound, do let me know, okay? Because the sound is pretty important. If you haven't got a bolster, what I'll give you time to do is get a blanket or a couple of blankets. This is the way, I'll just show this, maybe for the benefit of Christine. Yeah, I mean, you do need to have blankets, but you want to try and make a mimic of a bolster. So blankets can be really useful. So I've got 2 here, and you make like a sausage. So that is an alternative, yeah. But I'm going to demonstrate with the blankets just to get, so that's another possibility. So I want you to place the bolster or the blanket across your space and have some support for the back of the head. Okay, so you raise the floor up. And then it would be useful to have a belt as well. The belt is not essential. I mean, this is going to be hip work for those of you that were with us at the weekend. But it's an obvious starting place, okay? So yeah, I was just thinking what to do in terms of mobilizing the upper back, not doing too much strength work, more stimulating than strengthening. So the belt goes round the pelvis. And so the bolster or the roll, the idea is it goes in the upper back, okay? But it goes just at the tips of the shoulder blades. So yeah, to be really precise, maybe it'd be like T9, T8, around there. Okay. So it's the tips of the shoulder blades. So it's not in the lower back. So I'm putting the belt around the feet to give a little bit of pressure to the inner legs. Just why not take advantage of this pose as a hip opener? So I've got 3 bricks behind my head. I've got the strap around the feet. I'm going to tighten that a little bit. The belt's going around the edge of the pelvic crest. And then if you can, you also take the arms above the head. Okay. So this is deliberately engaged, well, let's say lengthening through the upper spine, thoracic spine. And we'll come back to this pose at the end of the sequence, but in a different arrangement with the gear and probably without the strap, okay? So gives a little bit of symmetry to the sequence. Okay, I'd like you to close your eyes once you've set all that up. And start to take your attention from the outside world around you to more the inner world. So I was talking a little bit about this over the weekend, but I listened to a really interesting podcast the other day. I've been I've just got into following a couple of like American scientists, sort of that are getting into sort of performance and meditation and stuff like that. Food, to a certain extent, seems to be this. Yeah, I understand there's a whole scene there. But one of the things this guy was talking about, which I thought was quite interesting in terms of meditation, was that meditation could be outwardly oriented or inwardly oriented. So we can practice mindfulness oriented more towards ourselves and more towards the world around us. So I think that's really worth being aware of. It's like mindfulness isn't just an inward turning experience. Although we're going to emphasize that now in this practice. So I'd like to turn your attention to the sensations in the body, particularly the whole body experience. And tuning in with your mood. Also tuning in with the breath. So the breath, yeah, it's going to become like the main thing at the end of, or towards the end of the sequence. But during the rest of the practice, allow you to be aware of the breath, but in a relaxed manner. So we're not changing the breath particularly. So taking your attention to where the body is speaking to you. That might be in the, well, like I'm noticing the groins for sure. And I'm noticing this lengthening or extension through the upper spine. So I've explained this before, but the upper spine is, it's a sort of natural shape is more kyphosis, it's curving forwards, the opposite to the lower spine. And what we're doing here is effectively starting to flatten out that curve, so it becomes an extension. But the curves in the spine are they're beneficial. I said this before, they're integral to the health of the spine. So we're not trying to go around with a straight spine. The image that I prefer to use is one of like lengthening through the spine. So you keep the curves in your more natural state. A sense of lengthening through the spine. So the curves of the spine help to support the weight of the head, for example. The neck curve helps to support the weight of the head, and the lower back curve helps to support the weight of the chest, the thorax. So we're not trying to flatten out the curves of the spine. Okay, so what we're trying now is just changing this into a more active pose. So I'd like to lengthen your arms, if you can, above your head, along the floor, parallel to the floor, and then gently press your feet together so it becomes a little bit more like stimulated the pose. So I'm deliberately projecting through the arms. You can turn your palms towards the center line. And I'm gently engaging the feet towards each other. So I didn't want to do like a yin practice particularly, okay? So a yin practice emphasizing more passive holding. I wanted to do more of a toning, moving practice today. So you're actively lengthening through the arms, pressing the feet together for a few breaths. And then we're going to sweep the arms up and then down, moving your feet towards you, unhooking the strap if you've got a strap there, bringing the soles of feet onto the floor, and then being aware that you're on a support, but you roll to one side. Okay. And you can remove the strap for now. So it might be helpful to have the strap later, or just have it there, bringing yourself into kneeling. So as I said, we're going to work on the upper body predominantly in the first sort of 3/4. Okay, so it'll be fairly familiar. Okay, so extend the arms out, and then I want you to bring the tips of the fingers onto the tops of the shoulders, and then we start with circles. Okay, so we start with small circles going in one direction, and building this up. So this comes out of our therapeutic yoga sequences. It's a shoulder mobilizer. To start to broaden out the circle. Think about lengthening through the spine. So the spine stays fairly static, should we say, but lengthening. And then you can work towards bringing the elbows towards each other, certainly in front of you. It's like there's no way they're going to touch behind. You can hear all the clicks and clunks, maybe. But this is really beneficial, yeah. Whether you're working with your arms or not, we're inevitably holding tension there. Okay, so it might not be like you're doing lots of physical work with the arms. I mean, you might be, but even just doing gentle work with the arms, you're going to get tension building up in the shoulders. This helps to break that up. Okay, we'll go into smaller circles, still going the same direction. Taking the gaze towards the horizon. Okay, and then coming back to a little circle and release. Take the arms out, sweeping them back, tips of the fingers back onto the shoulders. We'll go the opposite way. Hopefully that's obvious. Doesn't matter if you repeat, that's fine. So building up, small to big. Taking the gaze out. Noticing any difference between the left and right side of your body, left and right shoulder. So one thing I came across, I'm probably watching far too much YouTube. Maybe it's like a negative indirect consequence of recording these videos. But one thing that I came across yesterday, which is related to the trapeze actually, that one doctor was suggesting that vitamin deficiencies can affect tension in the right shoulder in particular, so related to the gallbladder. So it's encouraging vitamin D, I think it was. I need to check that now. There's a whole load of symptoms that can appear in your body as a result of particularly vitamin deficiencies, vitamin B, D, so on A. So I thought that was quite interesting. And so food is relevant to our physical health. We're opening out to a big circle, maybe touching in front, exploring that, and then coming back into a smaller circle and releasing. Okay, take a pause there, rest the hands into your lap for a moment, listening into your shoulders, growing your spine, and extend the arms once again like two wings. Again, you've done this with me before. So we stay here with small circles. We do 30 in one direction. And then you can just count them off in your own mind, up to 30. Keep breathing. So the first 10 are really easy. And then it gets progressively more intense. Yeah, so it's like a small active movement, engaging what's like the muscles around the shoulders, sort of rotator, cuff, and the bigger muscles. You could even close your eyes, get your attention into the sensations. So we're just going in one direction. So being aware of which direction you're going in. Usually, yeah, if you don't want to count, I just keep working until it starts to feel a little bit too much, a little bit sore. And then you just rest again. Rest the hands into the lap. feeling the weight of your body through the feet, through the ankles, if you're still in the kneeling there. Extend the arms once again, opposite direction. But it's with small circles, okay? Small circles. They can be slower, they can be faster. Again, you can close your eyes. Breathing, extending out from the center of the body to the fingertips. Again, you're working maybe to the point where it starts to ache. No point in pushing through too much there. Again, release. Coming back into your center, growing your spine. Releasing around the shoulders. Okay, and then extend the arms once again out to the sides. Then extend them forwards. This is like Gurudasana. So we're going to take the right elbow into the left and wrap the forearms. And then we just gently lift. This is really intense on the outer shoulders. Gently lift the elbows, lift the gaze. And gently pull the elbows down towards your body. You can even look down. It's a little bit of extension through the thoracic. And then flexion through the thoracic. 2 or 3 times, making a dynamic movement there. I'll just change my angle. Okay, and then bring your elbows to shoulder height and the forearms away from the face. And we'll hold for a few moments there. So you can really feel that down the outer shoulders through like the deltoid area. But it's also has the effect of pulling the shoulder blades away from each other, which helps to open up that space, rhomboids between the shoulder blades. Okay, then release down. Extend your arms out to your side and forwards. Left elbow goes into your right, wrapping the forearms. And bringing the elbows up on an inhale, gently. Extending through the thoracic exhale. Sense of releasing the shoulders as you exhale, inhale, lifting the elbows. Again, listening in to what's happening there in the shoulders. And working gently. So we'll bring the elbows now, shoulder height. Yeah, I find this really intense. Okay, breathing there, forearms and away from the face. And you're lengthening through the spine. Try not to lean back or lean forwards. We build up like a proprioceptive sense of that with time. So an inward sense of where our spine is in space. Although it does help to have someone correcting you from time to time. Okay, and then releasing out. Okay, and then come off your knees for a moment into all fours, extend back one leg at a time. Okay, and then from there, ground your palms, feet about hip width. We're going to come up into the dog pose. I didn't really want to do too many dog poses, but I will put one in here, okay? So extending from the hands back to the sitting bones. So this does work the upper body,
So I wanted to do a little, as I said, stimulate the upper body area. I'd like to think about lengthening through the upper back. So it helps to lift the head in line with the upper arms rather than let the head hang. Give you a sense of a bit more active lengthening through the upper back. At the same time, we're lifting the sitting bones, projecting through from the hands to the sitting bones. And allow the weight of your body come onto like the middle finger and the outer two fingers. Little finger and fourth finger, rather than trying to push the thumbs down. It will give you a sense of a little bit of outward rotation in the upper arms, which will create a sense of stimulating broadening through the upper back and upper chest. So I'll just repeat that. So there's a sense of weight going into the outer hand, middle finger towards the little finger. Often it's taught, especially if you've got an Iyengar background, to really ground the index finger base and thumb, but try shifting the weight more to the outer hand, okay? And that will externally rotate the arms. From there, release down. Take a pause in child's pose. Do feel free to come down before I say so. Relaxing your arms, your head, shoulders. Okay, we'll do that. I haven't said we'll do it just once. We're going to do it twice because I want to do a plank. So grounding the palms, tucking the toes under, back into dog pose, Ardha Mukha Svanasana. So we're going to swing forwards and pause here in the high plank. So it helps to not drop the hips too low. Okay, so if you're in doubt, because we don't want to go into extension of the spine. If you're in doubt, keep your hips a little bit high. The main point here is to load the shoulders. Get the arms working. Okay, so the gaze can go slightly forwards as well as down. Feeling your body weight there. It's a really simple pose, but it's like we're using the body weight itself as well as the kind of challenge. So you're loading the upper arms, shoulders. Okay, dropping to the knees when you're ready. Swing back and rest into child's pose. Relax your arms. Release your arms. Take a pause to connecting with the breath. The whole body experience. And a sense of the heart, mind, sense of your mood, thoughts. Okay, from here, all fours, dropping down to the forearms now. So it's like a forearm plank, forearm plank, tucking the toes under. So again, if you're in doubt, keep the hips a little bit higher, that's fine. I want you to load the forearms, load the upper arms, looking down now, more like looking down, so a sense of neck long, pushing gently back from the forearms to the feet to the forearms, so it'll create a little bit more stability. Obviously, this is working down the whole of the body. So we group this in with like core work, so it helps to create core stability. But again, it's an obvious pose to work for upper body, arms. So you hold that as long as you like. When you're ready, dropping to the knees and carefully resting back into child's pose. Release the arms. Taking a moment to be aware of the whole body. So we're coming up into sitting, and okay, yeah. So I haven't done this for a while, and I was thinking about this pose the other day. So it makes sense to do it for this upper body work. Okay, so what's it called? Urdhva Purvasana, I think. It's like upward, forward stretch, if you like. Okay, so we start in the sitting position. You can move the buttock flesh back, and then you lean back into your hands. Not like it's one of my favorite poses or anything, but it's an interesting one. It's challenging for the upper back. So we're going to do it as a halfway position first. So we're not going to lift the pelvis off the floor. Okay, so I want you to point the toes away from you and think about lifting. You can play with the hand position, lifting the chest and lifting the gaze. You're deliberately extending through the upper back. And so lifting the sternum. As I said, you can play with the hand position. It may be helpful to go a bit wider. We're pointing the toes away from us and we're looking up. Okay. You can probably see where this is going. But keep the pelvis down, pointing the toes away from you. Actively lifting the upper back or lengthening through the upper back. Okay, and then release back up to the vertical. Have a rest there for a moment. So one thing you want to be careful with is your head position. So we don't want to be throwing the head back too strongly. So let's just try this again, okay? So what we're going to try to do is project through the big toes. It's fine to have a couple of goes at this, okay? And try to bring the toes down to the floor and lift the pelvis. So you lift up like a reverse plank. Maybe taking the head back if it feels okay on your neck. Lifting up. Breathing there. And come down. So you might not get as much height as you like in the pelvis. That's fine. You just go to where you can. Okay, so let's try that one more time. Taking the hands back. Projecting through the toes, lifting the pelvis. See if you can bring the toes down or at least towards the floor. Maybe taking the head back. Opening the chest area. And release. Okay. Great. Coming back up to center line through the spine. Okay, we're going to bring the legs in now into what's called shoelace. So I'm going to bring the left leg underneath, the right leg on top. And if that's not easy for you, then just cross legs. This is where it would be maybe helpful to have a strap. So we're going to place the strap over, resting over the left shoulder. And we want to try to sit between the sitting bones, okay? So bring your weight in, between the feet, the sitting bones between the feet. Okay, I'm going to take, let's see, my right hand around the back of the body and my left arm going up. Now I'm going to see about hooking the fingertips. So that's where the strap might come in useful. If you can't hook the fingertips, well, you can get hold of the strap. And then to be in the pose, to refine the pose, you think about taking the left forearm away from the back of the head and up. So you're lengthening from the sitting bones to the crown, and then the gaze towards the horizon. So I think it's important to be thinking about the alignment of the spine, so we're not distorting to the left or to the right, backwards or forwards. And close the eyes again. So again, this is really intense on the shoulder area. Works deep into, I can feel it works really deep into the shoulder joint. And also has the benefit of creating a sense of lengthening through the upper spine. So we have got this natural kyphosis, but there is a tendency for the upper spine to collapse forwards and down, as we know, or may be aware. Just help bringing awareness back into the upper back, and we're deliberately extending through, lengthening through. So if you can hold that for a couple more breaths. Okay, and then releasing. For a moment, rest the arms down, being aware of the effect of that pose. Okay, and then changing out the legs to the opposite side. So I'm bringing my right leg underneath. You can wriggle a little bit to get this sense of sitting bones between the feet. If you're teaching people with less experience in, well, this pose might not be that accessible, but it may be helpful to sit on a brick, okay? Putting the brick lengthways to get a little bit more height. The belt's going over the right shoulder this time. Left arm goes around the back of the body. Right arm goes up. I'm extending up, and see how I get on with this pose on this side. So it will shift around. Okay, one of the benefits in some ways of coming back to poses again and again is you get to like a reference point. Okay, so you get to see where your body's at, how it's changing, what's going on. Like a couple of months back, this pose was really difficult. More restriction in the upper back. So once we're set up, refining. So we're taking the right elbow up and out a little bit, so it's not pressing into the back of the head. You want to have the neck free to lengthen through space there. And although we're focusing on the upper back, there is some hip work going on. I'm really aware of my right hip here. Shoelace or Gomukasana it's like a classic hip work pose, as well as the shoulders. Just a kind of like really efficient pose. We're working the whole body in some ways. Hips, shoulders. Connecting with your breath. Taking 3 more breaths here. Your attention going inwards towards your experience. And releasing. Fingertips or the belt. Have a pause where you rest your arms by your side for a moment, being aware of the work we've just done. And then releasing the legs. Okay. Yeah, so might be helpful to have a brick. This time I'm putting it crossways underneath me, not lengthways, to get a little bit more height. So I'll do it. So I wanted to include these two because for me, the Marichyasana poses, so it's the twisting poses, they really bring sensitivity into like the heart area, like the chest area. So we're going to bring the left shin in, left foot in, and the right knee up. Okay, so I'm going to embrace, maybe it's helpful, more helpful to turn. I'm going to embrace the right shin. So I want to think about lengthening through the spine. You're using the forearms as like a prop here. And particularly think about lengthening through the upper spine. Okay, so yeah. Space between the shoulder blades, keeping the left arm round the right shin. Take your right arm up. Or if up, maybe up is good, yeah, lengthen through the right side. And then we'll take the right arm out to the side and then back. Your fingertips behind you in line with your sacrum, and then going to shoot the left forearm forwards. And see if you can wrap rather than hook. Think about wrapping. So hooking tends to create a bit of tension here. So I'd like you to draw yourself towards your right thigh and lengthen up. So I'm sure it's not just me that it feels like it's working the upper back. So obviously there is that danger as a yoga teacher of always referring back to your own body, but you have to start somewhere. You're also referring to the tradition, and then you can look what's happening in other people's bodies. But feeling the upper back, and think about broadening across like the trapeze area, so the upper spine. It's a broadening. The gaze you can keep fairly neutral. You could look behind you. That feels right on your neck, or you could look to the side. There's another option of looking forwards in this pose, but I think in terms of taking awareness into the mid-back, probably more interesting to turn the head to the right, growing the spine. And then with the left leg, the anchored leg, think about gently lengthening from the groin, inner knee. So the left leg is definitely grounded, left shin grounded. Gently lifting up through the spine, using the arms as a guide. Okay, then releasing round, center, switching out to the opposite side. So I'm sitting on a little bit of, I've got a brick underneath me just to give myself a little bit more sense of lifting through the spine. I'm embracing the left shin. I take the left arm up, so I'm growing the spine with the arm. Then take the left arm out to the side, taking it back. And taking my right arm forwards and wrapping. Growing there, the spine. Closing the eyes. Particularly taking your awareness into the shoulders. Sense of broadening now. Space between the shoulders. Coming back into whole body awareness. So there can be specifically aware of how this pose is affecting us, but then from time to time coming into a whole body awareness. Even being aware of the space around you. Sounds around you. Physical space around you. And releasing back round to center. And yeah, coming down now onto the back. Okay, so this is the last bit of body work. Well, no, not quite. Okay, so but I wanted to just gently warm up the body a little bit. So coming into semi-supine and bring the hands down by your side. This is like the 6-part bridge, okay? So it will be gently stimulating for the body. As we exhale, we pick up the arms and look through the legs, okay? Grounding your feet. As you inhale, you drop to the floor. And then as you exhale, you lift the pelvis, particularly think about lifting the chest. Inhale, the arms above the head. Exhale, drop the pelvis to the floor, lengthening the waist. And then inhale the arms back to your side. So it's 6 movements. I'll do that again. Exhale, you pick up and look through the legs, arms, and gaze through the legs. Or looking through the legs. Inhale, release to the floor. Exhale, lifting to bridge. The arms stay where they are. Inhale, the arms lift above the head. Exhale, drop just the pelvis, lengthening the waist as you go. Inhale the arms back to the original position. Okay, we'll do that 4 or 5 more cycles in exhaling to lift. Inhale, release down at your own rhythm. Exhale, bridge. Inhale, arms. Exhale, release down. Inhale, arms. So I'll let you do that on your own breath. Particularly exploring like the end of each phase of the breath. Remembering that the arms with the bridge, they move independently of the pelvis. Using the feet to really support the pelvis lifting, so your legs are working now to lift the pelvis into the bridge. And when you lower back down, okay, 1 more cycle on your own breath. Okay, from there, come to stillness for a moment. So it'd be really helpful if you had a cork brick, but I'm just, that kind of might be a bit of a rarity. So if you haven't got a cork brick, you could use a pile of foam bricks. But if you've got something like a cork or a hard foam brick, it's like more like the brick than the block. Well, sometimes they're called blocks, sometimes they're called bricks. It's kind of harder. It sits. You're going to sit your sacrum on the brick. Okay. So the reason I'm asking you to use something like that, you could do this pose without the brick, but I want you to interlace your arms underneath you and gently, so in the sense the pelvis is supported, but it could be unsupported. I want you to gently activate your arms and open the upper chest. Okay, so if you don't want to do it with the brick, you could actually lift the pelvis off the support for a while. You're not going to hold it for so long. Still engaging the arms, so the interlaced fingers pushing the hands away from me. And yeah, it's a strong flexion of the neck, but a bit inevitable really with this pose. So aware of your neck. So either you're lifting the pelvis or it's supported. Having the pelvis supported just allows the pelvic area to be a bit quieter and you can focus more on what's happening in the upper back. Well, both is good. So bound hand bridge. Okay, Bada Hasta or Hasta Bada Dvipadapita. So bound hand bridge. I want you to think about really lifting the sternum, broadening that across the chest. And when you're ready, releasing the hands, releasing the brick, the blocks, and come down. Okay. From there, rolling to one side, I'm going to do one last bit of body work here, sort of preparation
So like is to have a bolster again, or the rolled blankets. And this is called the supine twist. So I'm bringing both of my legs to one side. I'm bringing them to my right. It's like I'm sitting side saddle. If I was sitting on, a bicycle or something, side saddle. Well, I've never ridden a horse side saddle, so I wouldn't know. But sitting on the back of a bike, I've done this. Okay, and then we're going to turn the upper body towards the support. So it's like a really quiet twist. If you can, you turn the head away from the legs, and you're resting the belly, the chest onto the support, okay? And the elbows go really wide. So the more that you can rest into it, the better. What I've noticed when I'm teaching this is I can't completely let go of the head, but ideally you would let go of the head. Okay. And you take your elbows wide and release through the upper back. It's like almost like there's nothing happening, but there's a quietly, subtly sort of work of releasing through the spine. Got the benefit here of having the belly in contact with the support and the chest, which is naturally calming. I'm doing this pose partly for the benefits of that sense of softening through the upper back and quietening the body, but also as a transition into the breath work that we're going to do. You can be as passive as you like in this pose. Really try to spread the elbows, and the bolster is more or less going down the center line of your body. Letting go. And then we're going to switch side. Stay there longer, really, but we keep moving here. So switch side. All you need to do is bring your palms underneath you. So you're swinging up or through all fours and swing the legs to the sides. You can stay fairly close to the floor. I'm trying to bring, like the belly, the lower ribs to the bolster or the rolled blankets. You do want some support underneath you. You could, I guess in theory you could do it straight to the floor, but I think it helps just the sort of mechanics of the pose to have a little bit of support underneath your chest. Try to let go in the neck. So just, you can change your head position. If it doesn't help turning the head, turn it neutral. Rest like the chin down or something, or the forehead. And importantly, his sense of broadening the elbows outwards. It's like winging the elbows and allowing the shoulder area to soften and open. Aware of your belly and the breath in the belly, should I say, and that resistance against the support.
Okay. From there, once again, bringing your palms down and lifting up to all fours. And we're going to sit back for a moment. Now, arguably, we should have done what we're going to do now right at the beginning, but I wanted to do a little bit of body work before we got into this. This can be a bit intense. So we're going to have a go at the Uddiyana Bandha as a standalone practice. Okay, it's like quite stimulating for the upper body. So I'm not going to describe it in loads of detail. I'll give an outline. Some of you will know this. I'm aware that some of you won't necessarily know it, but we'll just give it a go. So you come up onto your feet, because it can take like about 15 minutes to really go through this in a lot of detail. Let me just say what it is. It's like a mock inhalation. So what you do is you do a deep exhale, which it's best done from standing. Completely empty the lungs, and then you lift up, gently pressing your hands on your thighs. I turn the fingers in, and you don't breathe in. But what happens is as you lift up, it's almost though your body is doing a mock inhalation. So the belly draws in to the space, and then you relax the belly and breathe in. Okay, so you don't hold it for very long. So I'll just show you. Although there's not a lot to see unless I get really close up to the camera, which I'm not going to do today. So exhale. I'm letting my body weights hang over the tops of the legs. I'm completely exhaling, fully exhaling. And then without breathing in, I lift up. Relax the belly. So I'm lifting up, and it says I'm holding the in-breath out. Does that make sense? If anybody wants to say anything now, let me just open the mics if that's... Because I'm aware like Joanna and Christine might not have done this before. It's contraindicated during, if you've got like a lot of stuff going down on your belly, like irritable bowel syndrome, or during menstruation, it's not going to be comfortable at all. Or you've just eaten a load of food. I will go into this, Joanna, on the foundation in July, okay? But let's just have a go, okay? For those of you that know it, and see what happens. So we'll do it 3 or 4 times. Deep exhale. So it's really important to like unhook quite gently. So you're deliberately holding the holding the in-breath out. So at some point you're going to want to breathe in. So just gently relax the belly and breathe in. Okay, we'll do that a couple more times. So really full out breath, pushing through the hands, broadening the upper back. And then one last time. So the feeling is like the belly is lifting into your abdominal area, basically, and drawing up. But we're trying to open the upper back. Okay, so you're pushing through the hands to open the upper back. Okay, that's enough. So we're going to set ourselves up now to do the breath work. So it would be helpful. This would be like the ideal setup. Okay, so you've got 2, I'm using foam bricks. You could use more like a folded blanket here rather than a roll blanket, and then something for the head. This would be an ideal setup. An alternative, if you haven't got the bricks,
is to, rather than a rolled blanket, I would fold the blanket to make it a similar height to these foam bricks. So I'll just, because I don't know what people have got there. So what's important is like a nice even support, okay, if you're doing with a blanket, and then something for the head, which could be a cushion. Okay. Now, when we come down, the pelvis is actually on the floor, and we just lift a little bit the rib cage off the floor. So there's a sense of a lifted rib cage, okay? You can bring the soles of the feet together again. The thing is, we're going to be there for quite a while. So if you're going to bring the soles of the feet together, do support your outer thighs. Like, you know, I've got all the gear here. I've got the luxury of a pile of meditation cushions as well. But if you're going to do Supta Baddha Konasana, I'd really like that not to be the main work. So I'm supporting the outer thighs with some cushions. And then I've got my head a little bit higher. Okay, and so I'll just go through that again. So the pelvis is on the floor. The rib cage is supported a little bit higher than the floor. In my case, I put a folded blanket. And then the head a bit higher still. So it's almost like there's 3 steps: head, rib cage, pelvis. Okay, so the overall effect is a little bit of extension through the spine, opening up the upper back. And then I have support of my outer hips. So I didn't want to get into a lot of hip work here, but it can feel quite satisfying to bring the feet together. And then I want you to rest your hands onto the lower belly. So a good reference point is you've got your, like, what we call the hip bones, which is actually the iliac crest. So these like 2 protrusions at the front of your pelvis. If you place the center of your palm on that, and then let the fingertips rest across the lower belly, so below the navel, that's where you're aiming for. Okay. So we were just playing there with Uddiyana Bandha. So Uddiyana Bandha is a sense of lifting up and broadening into the upper chest. But we're now going to explore what's called Mula Bandha, which is the area just below the navel, gently drawing in towards your spine, or towards the back of the pelvis, really, towards the sacrum. And the impact of that area drawing down is to lift the pelvic floor. So what we'll do is we'll start to deepen the exhale. So I like to take about 10 or even 15 breaths, where each time slightly lengthening and slightly deepening the exhale. So you're just going to really take your time to do that. So you breathe in as freely as you need to, but breathe out a little bit more profoundly each time without going too quickly into that. So just gently lengthening. I'm letting my in-breath be as whatever it wants, but I'm emphasizing a little bit like lengthening the exhale. But I'm adding in a little packet of extra exhale each time I breathe out. Obviously, the in-breath will get deeper, but we're emphasizing the out-breath. I want you to just lengthen out the out-breath over a period of 10 or 15 cycles. And what I'd like you to look for is a sense of toning, particularly towards the end of the out breath, a sense of toning where your fingertips are resting. So toning across the lower belly. So it's like feels like the lower belly draws down towards the floor, towards the sacrum. At the same time, a sense of keeping the face relaxed, releasing the lower jaw relaxed, pelvic floor. So just 2 more cycles there, emphasizing a deep exhale, looking for a sense of gentle toning in the lower belly, below the navel. And we can just release the arms away from the body for a moment, just let the breath be free, whatever it wants to do. What we're looking for there is this gentle toning of the lower belly moving down. It feels like it's drawing a bit tighter across the lower belly. This is a reference to Mula Bandha. So we're now going to move the hands back onto the body towards the sort of lower ribs. So you need to wing your elbows out again. So this is like have 2 phases to it now. So we're going to deliberately exhale, sense of grounding the breath down into the belly. So really anchoring the breath down into the belly. And then as you breathe in, allow the breath to move up into the hands. So we're now going to start to emphasize the in-breath. So do as many cycles, maybe 5 or 6 cycles, take a rest. And then try again, rather than try and do lots of cycles. So you do exhale, rooting the breath in Mula Bandha, and then breathe in to the hands. And repeat. This will naturally be more stimulating. Breathing into your hands with the in-breath. Anchoring down into your lower belly, the out-breath. Try like 4 or 5 rounds, because it can feel quite contrived. It can end up feeling a bit forced, this work. So do try 4 or 5 rounds and then release. Release the intention, release the hands away from your body. Just drop back into a free breath, unhindered, unmanipulated. And then we'll try that again. So bringing the hands to the lower ribs. We're deliberately exhaling a little bit more profoundly to get a little bit of gentle toning in the lower belly. And then deliberately breathing into the hands to expand the lower chest area. So we'll do that for 4 or 5 cycles. And then again, release. Release the hands away from the body for a moment. Just come into a free breath. Do check that your pelvis is relaxed. If it's not relaxing, bringing your feet together, then you can quite simply lengthen the legs out or be in semi-supine. So if it's not restful on the pelvis, don't get into working the pelvis. Okay, we're going to come into a third phase now. So I want you to bring now your hands like to your upper chest. So it's like, yeah, chest, upper chest area, just below the collarbone. Resting the hands there. So this is going to have a phase of deep exhale and a phase of filling the body up all the way up to the hands, if that's possible. So again, I'd try 4 or 5 cycles and then take a rest. So I'll let you go at your own rhythm. So deep exhale, see if you can root the breath down into Mula Bandha and then breathe in as it were, filling the body up. And again, releasing the breath, breathing all the way down into the lower belly. And try again. Filling the breath all the way up. So it feels like it can feel quite intense as we're filling the breath, filling the body up with breath. Checking that you're relaxing your face, releasing around the jaw, the pelvic floor. Anchoring the exhale down into the lower belly. Trying one more round of that. It feels okay. We never want to be forcing the body with this kind of work. And then just release your arms away from the body again. So we'll try another cycle of 4 or 5 breaths, where we take the breath right up, all the way up to like the collarbones, okay? So just take a pause there, checking that you're not creating any excessive tension in the body, particularly around the face, or the hip area, or the pelvic floor area. Once again, bring your hands to the upper chest area and explore 4 or 5 or maybe 3 cycles of the breath. Deep exhale. Deep inhale. And repeat. Last inhale, so really filling up through the belly, through the lower chest, into the upper chest. And then completely releasing again. And then from here, I'd like us to come all the way down to the floor. So we're going to come into a period of resting. So we've got some support around the back of the chest to come off that. So you come a little bit closer to the floor, keeping some support around the back of the head. If you want, supporting the back of the knees with your bolster. And then coming into stillness, make sure you're going to be warm enough. Okay. And I'd just like you to, for the next few minutes, really tune in with the sensations around the thorax. So one of the things that this practice does is really heighten the sensitivity and awareness of like all the kind of intrinsic muscles around the rib cage, the upper back, collarbones, shoulders, and so on. I'd like you now to come into a completely easeful, free breath. Okay. So deepening the in-breaths is naturally stimulating or inherently stimulating. Deepening the exhale is inherently calming. So we finish there on deep inhales. So you might feel quite present, quite alert. I like now to come into resting the body, choosing a place for your arms. And let your breath find its own easeful rhythm. Resting your head, resting your arms, your legs. Coming into whole body awareness. So being aware of the effect of this practice this afternoon, or whenever you're going to do this practice. And so a deliberately more quiet practice, and bringing awareness to the breath. Getting a sense of your mood, aware of the heart mind. And being aware of this quality that everything is changing. Nothing is permanent. We can observe that quality or that characteristic in our own body, our own mind, as well as the world around us. Fine-tuning into your breath for the last minute or two. And when you're ready, so do feel free to stay there longer. I'm going to bring this session to a close now with the gong. I don't know if the gong comes across, but here we go. Thank you very much, and see you soon.
Thanks, Sudhakar.
Bye bye.